I was so sick of being stuck, so I did something I never thought I would do. I hired an executive coach. Follow along with me as I team up with Tarik, a personalized executive coach for rising leaders. I'm going to talk about my fears, my anxieties, and what's holding me back. And hey, maybe we'll get unstuck together.
Okay, awesome. Josh, anything you need to do, coffee, water, notifications, journal to get fully locked in?
Nah, caffeine is at close hand here. D&D is on, lights, camera, everything's ready. Let's go.
All right, sounds good. Well, as always, over to you to kick us off on where you're at today.
Cool. So I've had a really good week. Felt a lot of the noise is low. That's a lot of that crippling noise is low. I had a shoot last Thursday, which went so much better than I expected. Oftentimes, I have to show up and I have to be in control of everything. And a lot of times with the imposter syndrome stuff and some of the anxiety of things, I can tend to fake that being in control because you can never let the customer see you sweat. But this time I didn't have to deal with all that anxiety. I didn't have to deal with all that stuff going on, which, made the shoot so much easier. And I know for a fact that practically that's what happened, because normally after we're done packing up, saying our goodbyes, shaking hands, doing all of that stuff, the truck is loaded up. I hop in the truck and it's like complete energy drain. I'm done. Like, ugh. And then I've got to take the drive home or whatever. This time, it was not like that at all. Hopped in the truck. We did all the glad handing, everything, all that end stuff. Hopped in the truck, and I still had an abundance of energy left over. So I know that I hadn't wasted so much energy on the anxieties and the people pleasing and am I going to get this right? Am I going to do that? I just kind of let it go and let it be. And it was good because the traffic was horrible and it was like a 4-hour drive home. But I had energy all the way through it, which normally wouldn't be the case. And even in the subsequent days after, normally on a shoot, it would be like just Pittsville, like just complete energy drain, don't want to do anything. Normally I'll take a day or two off after a shoot just to try to recharge. I was able just to keep going and hop right into all the other things that I needed to do. So one of the better shoots that we had, I'm super happy with the content that we've even created and the company that we're helping launch their product to the world is super exciting to me. So that's kind of the update of the last couple of weeks here.
There's a calmness that I saw it last week when we started, and I feel like a broken record in the first 2 minutes of these sessions, but there's just a different shoulders are down calmness that I'm hearing from you. And last week, so much of what we talked about was like your process with the shoots, right? And like how much effort you're putting in before the shoot to try to get everything locked in. And I think we did our session like the day before the shoot, right? Or 2 days before?
We did, correct, yes. Yeah. It really helped. Practically speaking from there, I purposely didn't like go over all of the stuff. Like I think I probably got about 3 or 4 hours back in my day prior to a shoot because I wasn't overstressing the situation. I just trusted it and got on site and had to do a little improvising and different stuff. And I just leaned on the experience that I had instead of making some big, thing about having to be prepared and all this stuff. It was calming and collecting, and it felt really good. So yeah, it was not often, I guess, do you ever get the ability to directly correlate like a coaching session to a real world application that quick, right? Like a lot of times you've got to kind of process the thing. It was legitimately then like the next day and then the following day, the way that I felt through the whole process is really good. It's really good.
It's really good to hear. And like I could tell a little bit just from some of our DMs through the week or a couple of your comments on LinkedIn. Like I was like, I'm getting the sense that Josh is like feeling good right now. One thing on my mind, Josh, with all this, and I'm so happy to hear about this shoot. Like I when I saw you last week and we talked about like the that feeling of like, are the processes enough and is this going to be enough and all this stuff that you were putting yourself through before a shoot to see that and see the quick turnaround. Like again, I just want to like pause and like give you a sec to sit in that for a second, reflect on that before we keep going.
Well, sure. I've been sitting and reflecting in it for a week now, so I feel really good about it. Uh, but I do kind of want to run something by you here.
Yeah.
Um, Earlier this week, I had another instance which I think shows a little bit of the progress that we've made together, but also kind of maybe reveals some of the missing pieces that I still have left. And I'm really kind of hoping to be able to hear your perspective on things on, whether whether I'm doing this right. I don't know what that even means, but so uh got up one morning, hit the gym, and just dog tired and had this massive amount of fatigue set in. And I began feeling some of the anxiety. I began feeling some of the pressures and some of that triangle that we've talked to, right? I don't want to forget that because that is so key to the discussion. And the positive thing that happened is I was able to hop on the treadmill and spend a solid hour going through, okay, you're feeling a certain type of way. Did you do it? And I started asking myself all these questions. Did you violate your personal values in some way? Did you lie to yourself about something? Did you present any false information to anybody? Did you this? Did you that? So all of the things that we've talked about, I was able to go through and practically ask, did you do these things? I was able to answer, no, I did not do those things. But it still left me with a, man, well, why do I feel this way? Like, and that's kind of the gap that I experienced earlier this week was, okay, cool. It's really awesome to have this framework of, all of the things that we've talked about through our sessions. And that really helped close a lot of the doors. But yet I still feel this thing, which I can't name. And I kind of had just chalked it up to maybe I'm just physically and emotionally exhausted. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I guess what I want to ask you is that kind of a normal thing to kind of like run to the end of your rope and still not really know exactly where to go next or the next question to ask?
I'm so glad that and you keep me honest here. I'm so glad that like you had that list on the treadmill to go through.
Oh
And
yeah,
can I check something with you real quick?
please.
Because I this morning before we filmed, my video is actually about like, hey, like Josh is making a ton of progress, but we've only done this for 3-4 weeks. Like as of 4 weeks ago, like these are all new concepts. Even something like naming the triangle. So a lot of this is really new, and what we really want to do is to keep finding the things that you can lean on that treadmill in those low moments that help you kind of shortcut the whole thing and get you back out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting to these frameworks by looking at everything like super objectively, right? In our sessions. So I'm not surprised that there's like moments still, right? Where like you're on the treadmill. I don't think the goal is to never have the moments when you're on the treadmill feeling low, because it's a lifelong journey, and
Yeah.
like there will always be situations that will make us feel these things, right? We're not trying to get to, I don't think it's possible to get fully immune forever, permanently at 100% perfectly the whole time. So I want to acknowledge like we're 3-4 weeks in, this is very, very new, right? At the same time, because we're only 3-4 weeks in, there might be other frameworks and other things to lean on in different situations. And I almost think of it as like us continuing to explore. And we can look at the treadmill example today if that's what you want to do. We'll decide in a sec here what you want to focus on today. But us continuing to explore like what those thought patterns are, and us continuing to kind of bucket them into like, okay, what framework are we going to use to overcome this, right? So, not to dodge your question, I'm not at all surprised that there's going to be moments like that on the treadmill, right? And to your point, it could just be fatigue for all we know. Um, but I just want to acknowledge, like, as much progress as you've made, it's been like 3.5 weeks, right? So our bodies and brains are still kind of getting used to
Yeah.
this like new way of thinking. How's that landing for you when I put it that way?
Yeah. I wasn't, we've talked in the past about how, you always have that idea the other shoe is going to drop. I wasn't under any grand delusions that I wasn't ever, we were going to solve everything through the course of this. It was just, I guess I guess I just wanted to get a little bit of reassurance that, you know, that's normal and that's the way to handle things. I love having the framework, but some of the threads that have yet to been pulled, you know, they're real and they're there and they're not named. So maybe that's what's lurking. Or maybe right, maybe it was just a fatigue thing. So having that reassurance, and I guess that was probably what you said was my ultimate conclusion too. And it was nice to be able to have those two things sync up.
And let's make sure that as we have been like going forward, the actions we land on and the way we dig through this stuff gets us to like the type of insights and frameworks that are framed in a way where it works well with your brain, right? So like I know you've told me naming something
Mm.
really helps because it makes it smaller and easier to own, right? And so I think we've had this like focus of like let's continue to name things. I am curious if you reflect back on the shoot last week, if you reflect back on the week before when you said, "Hey, like I had some speed bumps and they felt just like speed bumps and not big things," or the week before when you said, "Hey, like it's like one of the best weeks that I've had, uh, to date." What has helped you in those moments? And I ask that because if we can get that data, we can continue as we dig to understand what works for your brain, and then we can continue to apply it in these treadmill moments and keep building that list of things that you can have in your pocket.
Yeah. So the things that help immensely are um, being actively aware. One of the things that I'm finding going through these sessions and having them regularly is there's not really an opportunity to hush that awareness because you're constantly thinking about what you talked about and last week or what you're going to be talking about. So being in tune with what's going on is a massive help. Like I maybe some I would even say it almost feels like a luxury, right? Because life is allowing to have that much mental and emotional energy put to those things. So that being aware of it has helped. Naming and categorizing things has helped. Uh, making making the videos and thinking through the process, has helped. The pre and the post videos and forcing myself to talk about these things in a semi-public forum, putting it out on the internet to the world helps you talk through those things. Um, I think those are the three things that I'm immediately aware of what is happening. Interesting enough, I shot my preview video for this morning, and I had noticed I had said that I had purposely not done like the research model thing. Like I have not picked up books or articles or anything, and I wanted to kind of commit to that for this process. But I announced that I admitted to myself that I kind of miss it because I do get this intellectual energy from these things, and I don't know if maybe the absence of that is playing into some of this stuff as well. Um, so I guess those are some of the good things, and maybe one of my guesses as to perhaps why you know I've got a lack of energy and or lack of clarity or focus in some of this stuff. I don't know.
The intellectual piece, like the studying piece, feels kind of missing right now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
A little bit. No, it's more than a little bit. It's there. I don't want to shrink that. It is definitely there. I get super jazzed reading like really heavy, thick books, and stimulating and putting my mind through. It's like exercise. I like to exercise my brain. I do. I always have. So, yeah, I do miss that a little bit. But I'm also aware that it could be very detrimental to this process because I can use those mental exercises to forget some of the stuff that, or to mute some of the other stuff that's going on as well.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm tracking. Can I
Please.
replay that back to make sure I'm okay? So the things that have been helping so far, active awareness, naming and categorizing things, and forcing yourself to kind of talk about this stuff through so forced reflection in a way because we are doing videos before and after. Yeah.
And I would say the accountability of it too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. Because we've made this commitment to do this process, that accountability, um, I guess it forces you to do it, right? So that accountability is a big piece there in that.
Yeah. Okay. Can I take us up to kind of 10,000 feet for a sec?
Mm-hmm.
Big picture going forward. Josh, you and the world as you continue on your journey. How would you love to operate? Blending everything we've talked about with what's been helping you so far, even blending in some of this stuff on researching and looking for knowledge outside. How would you love to operate going forward?
Man, that's a good question. I guess I've never thought about it. um, I think I would love to be more balanced in the approach. I have a tendency to binge thread pull, right? So I get interested in a topic. 18 books are delivered, and I am bathed in that topic almost obsessively for months at a time. Uh, Alternatively, same goes with a lot of other things. Like I had to force myself to not play video games because if I start play video games, it's that way for 6-8 months or whatever, and it's full in, full go, nothing else matters. Um, so I guess one of the detriments that I have is that I get so singularly focused on whatever it is that the active awareness goes away, and the accountability to other things go away. So I think optimally, I would love to be more balanced in approach. And I say that knowing that you still have to have heavily dedicated times in periods of your life to make progress, right? Like there are just certain things that if you want to make progress, you have to kind of be all in on those for shorter periods of time or in their intensive. So I would like to be able to float in and out of those times, I guess maybe is the best way to say, where I've got really good balance for 90% of the time, and 10% of the time I can scratch that binge urge, maybe. Um, yeah, so that's probably about the closest I can get to an optimal answer uh, right now. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Balance 90% of the time, and then giving yourself that space to binge. And we've kind of had this like 90-10 kind of it's not 100 or zero theme a few times, right? I feel
Yeah.
like that theme frees you up a bit when it's not fully 100 or zero.
Yeah, if it's not evident by now, I am really like I really have that type of personality of like when I'm in, it's all in. And to the point where it gets destructive in a way. Right. So like when I think about the imposter syndrome with the anxieties and the fears and all this stuff, all in, terrible. When it's a good I mean, but other times it's a good thing, you know. Hours and hours on learning stuff, and I built a business of on this principle of learning everything I could about video and cinematography and editing and all of that stuff. That took lots of hours of dedicated work. So there's a good side to it. It just seems that the obsessiveness there's got to be a way that I figure out how to balance those out to the point where I'm not using it as a distraction tool from other things that are going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know I've kind of brought us to this 10,000 foot thing. We still have like plenty of time here, Josh. We have 40 minutes. I want to honor what you said early on about the treadmill moment and kind of what happened there. So we can absolutely dive into that. Do you mind if we close the loop on this for a couple minutes? And this
Yeah,
might even be what we dive into, but
yeah,
before we pick
that's fine.
exactly what we lock in on, you've mentioned reassurance earlier today. And mind if I just come in with a thought on this external research piece? I'll take my coaching hat off for half a sec.
Okay.
I love where your mind is at right now with like this 90-10 balance. And when you and I first sat down and you told me that your tendency was to just lean on the research and lean on the external books, the vibe I got that day was that it was so much of that there was maybe less of the naming it and owning it, less of the awareness, less of that. What we don't want to do is try to find all the answers in books, but we also don't want to shut ourselves off from the world, right? Like
Yeah.
I read books, like it's a balance, right? And so I wanted to get your answer first of like how you'd like to optimally, you know, operate going forward with this balance. But then I wanted to come in and just reassure you that, hey, like the research isn't a bad thing. The tricky part is if we lean so heavily on the external sources, the Googling, the ChatGPT, the books, the articles, to a point where we are ignoring the self-awareness. That's where it becomes too much of a crutch. We're not trying to shut it out.
Yeah.
I don't even
Yeah.
need you to commit to not doing it, man. But I just wanted to come in and say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I know it's completely unrelated, but what you just said to me would be almost exactly what I would say to a client who was like, "We're gonna, just rely on AI to generate all of our video and stuff." I would say the exact same thing because it's like, "Oh, okay,
Mhm.
cool," but you're gonna lose, which businesses do all the time. They lose this awareness of everything else that goes on because they come so insular. That's not the part of this coaching thing, but I want to say that I instantly track with what you're saying. Um, yeah, like I want to say that obviously there's value in all of these tools and all of this stuff, but I would like to have the same level of awareness that I've got from these sessions with what I'm feeling and the triangle and stuff. I would love to have the same level of awareness of, hey, maybe you're over indulging and over analyzing and over researching. It does. I don't know if I have the right way to say this, but I'm gaining all of this stuff on the personal feelings. I would like to have the same type of level of awareness on the actual actions that I'm doing. And I can probably very easily tie a line of the insecurity to the need for research and the external validation and all that. So maybe it'll be maybe there's a link there between that to get that a level of awareness. But it's like, okay, when have you studied too much and you're just using it now as a way to cope or a way to distract yourself from the real stuff that needs to go on? So I guess maybe tacking that onto the optimally thing, I would like to learn how to have that level of awareness in that avenue and area of life.
And I want to make sure I'm tracking on this one, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am. There's this desire to get that level of awareness on how much more on the research side and this tendency to research and find stuff external, having some awareness of where that line is and if we've gone kind of past that line. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a couple things that have come up here. There's this topic. There's the stuff about the treadmill. So we have a solid 35 minutes. We can dive into whatever feels like the most impactful area for you today. Take a minute, think it over, and let me know what you would love to leave with in our time today.
I think the going back to the treadmill part of it, and being able to go through that checklist, but then having all of my options exhausted, and feeling powerless to the situation because I couldn't come to any conclusion, or I couldn't figure out what the next steps to take, and that bringing on some of the urges of that triangle to spin and self-destruct would be I think that's what I came in here wanting to do. So I'd like to do that.
Okay, sounds good. And then on the balance piece for research, shall we tackle that a separate time then?
Yeah, we can we can pull back to things. And I'm sure what's going to happen is, as it always does in our sessions, we'll figure out the link between those two things. I don't, if I've said them both at the same time, they're probably related somehow, and I just haven't figured out what it is. So I'm sure that we'll probably end up addressing both, but this main topic will be the one.
Okay. What are you hoping that we land on today with this treadmill? What would be this ideal outcome?
I think the ideal outcome is what and how to respond to the exhausted checklist to make sure that it doesn't immediately go to insecurity, imposter syndrome, all of those things. So, okay, gone through all these things, checked all these boxes. At the end of the rope, do I fall into the temptation to say, oh man, see, look, you're just full of crap. You've not made any, like the temptation is, you've not made any progress. See, you can't do anything there. That's the temptation to fall into. Let's try to focus on, when you don't have the language and the categorization and the answers, what are some things that we can do or I can do? What are some of the things that I can do to combat that spiral? Fair?
Fair. And it seems to me like it doesn't even matter how long the checklist is. We're going to focus on the scenario, kind of that scary scenario of like, we got to the end of the checklist and we didn't find the answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Because that's, the checklist makes things smaller because there's comfort, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. I can, there's not an element of control, but there's, it's shrunken down. Okay, we've gone through this. Awesome. You feel that you've systematized it a little bit. So when the system runs out, then it's like wide open gap for the doubts and everything to creep in. So what do we do then?
Okay. What's your level of confidence that we're going to figure this out in half an
Oh,
hour?
dude, it's a 10, right? It's got to be like we're rolling. I don't know, we're rolling dice and coming up sevens or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's some gambling phrase that I have no idea what it is, but no, it's a 10. It's an absolute 10. Uh, we've uh, we've made such good progress this far. Why do I think that we're not going to continue to make that progress?
What does it say to you about the fact that like you're sitting here with this thing and you're like, I'm not talking about the coaching, but have we kind of already said, hey, this is tackleable? And that's the first small step.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that the benefit of even doing anything like this at all? Is getting the confidence to know that it's like that it is possible to go through. Like you got to stack wins. Confidence is not a one like one big miraculous thing happens and then all of a sudden you're confident. No, we've stacked over the past however many weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, we've stacked small win upon small win, realization upon realization, effort upon effort. We've stacked these small things over and over again. So yeah, of course I've got confidence that we're going to continue to do those things, right?
Great. I like that we're now entering this treadmill energy with, hey, there's an answer here.
Yeah.
We're gonna find the answer. I won't swear, but we're gonna effing find the answer here. Okay, cool. Let's can we look at the scary thing in the face
Yeah,
for a
so
sec?
yeah.
Okay, you're on the treadmill. The checklist has been exhausted. What's the brain saying?
Hmm. So it's what it's saying and what it's not saying, right? Okay. Um, it's saying, okay, you obviously haven't made as much progress as you think you've made, so you're wasting all this time, right? Lies for sure, but that's what it's saying. But what it's not saying is, um, it's not there. There's an absence. There's a void of any other good options, right? Like you open up the cabinet and there's nothing in the cabinets. There's bare. So it's it's not just that only negative stuff is being said. It's that nothing else is being added to that conversation. Like the reservoir is empty. So the only room that's there, it's like it becomes a one-sided conversation where the only thing in the conversation is the negative stuff, and that's where it begins to get its strength because I don't have anything to combat. It's silence. It's you know there is no answer. Like what do you want me to say? So those two, I felt that very strongly, um, very strongly with it. It wasn't just that my brain was like trying to beat down and lie and say you're not good enough and all this is a waste. It was also like there was nothing to come back to that. There was nothing to come back against that, and that void was draining. It was absolutely draining. I could feel the effort and the attempt to say something, come up with something, but nothing was coming, and that was a little rough. And I think maybe that's where I missed that intellectual stimulation that we talked about. I don't want to go down that road, but I made that little connection. I think maybe that's where I'm kind of missing it because there was a lack of anything good or anything solid. It became a one-sided conversation.
In hindsight, what do you wish you could have said or leaned on that
Ooh.
treadmill, if anything was possible?
I think I wish I would have had the courage to say, I don't exactly know what the right answer is here, but I know that your answer, that I know that the bad thing is wrong. Like being able to admit I didn't have the words or the categories or whatever. Like, you know, being able to just admit I don't have it yet, and that's fine. But not having it made me feel insecure in myself. Not having the good side made me feel insecure, and made the bad, lying side that much stronger and harder to combat. So I wish I would have been able to be secure enough to say, I don't know what it is yet. I'll find it out, but I know I'm not going to listen to you. Um, but I wasn't able to do that at that time. I wasn't able to say that.
What, hypothetically, the next time that happens, and if you were to say that, and if you were to believe it, let's play that out. Like if you said that with conviction, you believed it. What impact do you think that would have on these types of situations?
I think the browser tab in the brain closes down in that area. Where okay, that's the end of this conversation for now. There's that's like the impasse moment, right? Like to be able to say, look, I hear what you're saying. I don't believe what you're saying, but I don't have an answer for you right now. We're gonna have to table this and come back. Okay, cool. And like it stops that conversation from being one sided, and it just becomes a pause in that conversation that can get picked up when more information is brought in. Um,
What's happening to you as you're voicing this out?
uh, it I guess I play out the scenario almost like it's you know an employer employee relationship where like the boss ends the meeting, right? You're in a meeting and whoever has the most power structure ends the meeting. And if since in this particular scenario the boss is the evil side, the dark side, the lying side, it's the one in control of the meeting. And I would like it to be that the good side is the one in control of the meeting and can end it at any time because whatever reason it is. Not a win lose thing. It's not like this, I've got to win and conquer the other side. It's a choosing to empower the side that I know is right and the side that leads to utopia and the side that leads to the promised land. I would like that one to be the one that's the boss and that can start, call, and close the meeting at its, in the appropriate at the appropriate times.
And if we expand on this metaphor for a sec, the checklist that you try to go down, is that like the first few attempts at shutting down the meeting with tried and tested things, and then it's like, okay, the meeting's not ending, so we need the good side to take over and be the boss and say, well, this meeting's over.
Yeah, it's like it's like the agenda runs amok, and
Yeah.
when the agenda runs amok, chaos ensues, and anything can happen. Like that's the reason why you have agendas for meetings, and the checklist helps go through and say, okay, well, we know it's not this, we know it's not this, we know it's not this, we know it's not this. Well, what could it be? Then the chaos ensues, and the wrong people are the wrong voices are in control of the meeting. And that I would like it to be the right good, solid, positive, progressive voices being in control of the meeting.
I'm going to ask you something that might sound insane.
Can't be any more insane than the stuff that I'm already talking about, man.
No, hey, nothing you're saying sounds insane to me, but I'm going to ask you something and it might piss you off. What if this wasn't about the good side versus the bad side? I asked you 2 weeks ago about what's the benefit of you having the fear.
Mm-hmm.
What is that evil bad side that we're calling right now? What is it trying to do for you? What if there was some intent there that it was trying to achieve?
I'm certainly open to the possibility of that being the case. And I'm certainly glad that it's there because of how it pushes things forward. But I don't know what it would be. And maybe that's partly why it becomes uh maybe that's why it becomes so big, or what, and maybe out of control what it is, because I don't know what it's trying to I don't know what it's trying to accomplish, or what it's I'll even give it the benefit of the doubt, what it's warning me from, what it's pushing me towards. Like I don't know what it is, but it certainly feels in conflict to, I mean, I don't know if, are we going to that old cartoon devil angel on the shoulder thing? I don't know if that's what it is, but like, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that there's something there, but I don't know what it is. And it feels draining, and it feels not on the, not on the good side of that. So yeah, I don't know. Is it, and then do we go back to my biggest struggle is just what I don't know. Maybe that's, the easiest diagnosis of it all.
Okay. So if I take a quick step back, I love your metaphor here of the boss and ending the meeting, right? We're gonna get the boss to be on the good side, the side that is saying, hey, like, this meeting's over, right? And we're imagining this employee, and say the employee is like the loud voice, the what we're calling the evil voice.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at it as boss employee, what is the employee trying to accomplish in this meeting? Why are they not leaving the room?
I don't know what they're not leaving the room, but as you were saying that, I began to think the problem with the bad employee that won't leave the room is that it doesn't stop. Like, it doesn't know when to not push something over the brink. In the larger scheme of things, like, we need we need that type of spirit in the world and in society, because it pushes the long arc of justice to bend toward truth. We need that. So yes, there's a good side to it. In my personal life and in our personal aspects, I need that. But if it doesn't stop and it's not controlled and it just keeps going, it depletes all of the resources, and then nothing can be accomplished. And that's what I'm saying. I want the good side to be in control, because it says it has enough wisdom to say, hey, we can't get to that answer now. We have to stop. And yes, it's still raging over here, and it wants to rage. And cool, it's whatever the outcome is, great. I don't know. But it doesn't stop. And I can't let the thing that doesn't stop be in control, except for that 10% of the time that we talked about earlier, where it needs to be all fired up and go. like 90% of the time, there's so many other things of life that have to go on. And there have to be resources to be a good family person, to be a good business owner, to be a good member of society. Like, if this 10% takes up all the resources, then the rest of my life doesn't get to move forward or function at all. So I don't know what it wants. I haven't kicked it out of the company, so I see some value to it, right? I haven't, right? There's got to be something there, but it just doesn't know. It doesn't have enough wisdom to know its bounds of when to say we've got to table this because it might be important, but we don't have enough information or we don't have enough this, that, or the other thing to actually implement what you're after. You can see it, but can't name it, you can't describe it, you can't strategize around it but you recognize it. And maybe that's the thing that bad employee does is it recognizes it and it says, "Hey, alarm bells, alarm bells, alarm bells." But that's all it is saying is alarm bells. I can't, what do we do with that other than to just be on high alert when we don't have a plan to get out of the burning building or we don't have a plan to prepare for whatever's coming down the road or a market shift or whatever, metaphor you want to use with it. So, that's, I value it. Yeah, I've got to value it, but I don't know. I don't want it to be the one running. I don't want it to be the one running the thing. I just don't. I can't. It's exhausting. Like, and then other things fall, that you're trying to balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I told you we'd get somewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where in your mind have we gotten so far?
Well, to the point where it's like we recognize that the bad thing has value and that it needs to be there. We just don't, and we just know that we don't want to get rid of it. We just want it to not be in its box, but we needed to know its role. We needed to know its role and when to sound the alarm and when to shut up for a little bit because I can't get to what you're saying right now.
Mm-hmm. And this is the fourth time, maybe, Josh, that you've said you keep coming back to this thing of table it and I can't get to it right now. And that seems to be the answer that you really, really like. And I just want to make note of that.
Yeah.
I think that's been very consistent. I'd like to say two things. And maybe I'll say one, I'll say the other. You take a moment and then we see where we go from there. How's that sound?
Love it.
Okay. Have you seen the movie Inside Out 2? The Pixar movie with the emotions?
I saw the first one. I think my daughter made me sit through the second one.
Do you remember the anxiety character?
I do.
The orange character?
Yes.
Okay. And the whole point of that movie was that the anxiety character wanted to control everything and she was pissing off everybody else in the movie. And they were like, what is this person doing? She is coming in and ruining the whole thing, right? And at the very end, what we saw is that the anxiety character's intention was just to protect the person, but it was doing it in a way that was ultimately destructive. But the intention was there to protect, right? That's the first thing that I want to say. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what's happening here, but I wanted to just give you that metaphor in terms of like when I say, hey, what might be the good? I'm not saying, hey, these are good thoughts, Josh, and like, hey, they're no. But usually there's an intent behind the voices in our head. That's the first thing. The second thing is if we play out this metaphor of the boss and the employee, okay? You've got your checklist, these things that you've named. If we just default to like, hey, I'm going to kick the employee out of the meeting and I don't care if they're screaming, but I'm slamming the door shut, which is I'm going to go distract myself and play video games and just like get out of it and like put it to the side. I don't know how sustainable that answer is because then it's like, well, they're going to just knock on the door and I can hear them in the hallway. And yeah, they're out of the room. The meeting's over. I'm watching the game, but like they're in the hallway. And in this entire thing, what I'm wondering what we get to is like, if we can understand that employee deeply, then we can tailor our communications to the employee so that we know what will genuinely calm it down for the time being, so that it says, yes, you're right, the meeting's over. That's what we're trying to get to here.
Yes. Okay.
It's not, hey, the bad side is good. But I want to have, and it goes back to what we said at the beginning, what is the most effing sustainable, rock solid way to do this? And I don't think it's kicking them out, kicking and screaming.
I agree. Maybe to help clarify the metaphor, let's get rid of evil and good, and let's talk about introvert and extrovert. I'm a high functioning introvert. In public, all those things, I can do all that stuff. Got to have the alone time to recharge. The quote unquote dark evil side that we were talking about is a raging extrovert that does not give the rest of me time to process. Right? So, yes, valuable. Yes, good idea. Yes, great intentions. I'm bought into all of that. But since when it gets going, it does not stop. The whole of me, the rest of me, the majority of the way that I operate never gets a chance to sit, process what it says, try to understand it, because the fire hose is just going and going and going and going. And, if to anyone out there, if you understand the difference between introverts and extroverts, you understand why it's hard for them to constantly be engaged all the time. Like, can it happen? Sure, but it's a drain on both of them, because the extrovert wants it done now. It's every single thing is the most important thing in the world. And an introvert is like, not necessarily. And that is what rages. And so, no, I don't want to get rid of him. I don't want to, I don't want to get rid of the extrovert. I need that. But to the point where the more in control of the meeting it is, the more exhausted I get emotionally, intellectually, physically, spiritually, because I have zero time to have my introvert recharge, my internal introvert recharge. Does that get us somewhere that is closer to a more accurate picture of what's going on instead of this good evil thing?
It's a very interesting parallel to you saying that thing 4 times of like, hey, I need to table it.
Mm-hmm.
I will get back to it. Like you that lays it out, right? Of like the loud voice that's like, tackle this right now, be worried about these 10 things right now. And your optimal answer, which is like, yo, dude, I get it, but like the meeting's over for now. Like, I will get back to you.
Yeah. Give me a chance to breathe. I'll get back to you.
Give me a chance to breathe.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question that I've already asked you before, but I'm just curious if the answer changes.
Sure.
Or evolves. Let's go back to the treadmill now. Let's go back to this scenario where you've named the things, you've gone through the checklist, but the voice stays loud. What do you wish you could do in that situation?
I wish I could acknowledge the validity of the voice, but temporarily tuck it away so I can try to grasp the depth of what it's saying. It's not that I dismiss those things. It's not that I'm dismissing the warnings, but the introvert is very fast and very thin. The majority of the way that my brain works is very slow and very deep. And I want to get the depth of what he's saying, because that's what's ultimately going to change. But I can't, because it's, and I gotta sit with it. I gotta wrestle with it. I gotta apply it to the depths of who I am. Like, that's the way that I operate. That's how I change. That's how I evolve and grow. I can't just, bolt on parts, here and there whenever it seems fit. I've got to restore the engine. I've got to build everything from the inside out. A few weeks back, we talked about hardwiring and coding, right? There's a couple ways to run software management. You can rewrite the code so that everything works and it's more efficient, or you can bolt on a whole bunch of add-ons and hope that the processors and RAMs and all these things and all these computers can just cover it up that all these things are all these things are bolted on. I like rewriting the code. I like that because it feels more, to me, it feels more efficient, it feels more authentic, and it feels like it allows me to show up being me in every situation instead of having to bolt on all these different things to fit a whole bunch of, situations and, be this person and this party and all that other stuff. I hope that was coherent enough because it felt very enlightening to me. I hope I was able to communicate that well. Where I have this desire of becoming, and this external voice is just no, just throw this on here, and it's not deep enough. It doesn't stay on. It doesn't like it. Like if you're in a really fast car and you bolt something onto the outside, that resistance of life can knock whatever's bolted off. I don't want that. I want when when life gets real fast, that the engine is strong and the aerodynamics are strong and that nothing gets knocked off and nothing gets left behind and nothing gets whatever. That's how I've always operated. That's how I want to be. So, I think that's why that extrovert side annoys me so much because it's now. And I've lived long enough and experienced enough that I know that doing that ultimately is a band-aid and it doesn't fix what's underneath. It doesn't get you healthy. It doesn't get you, it just gets you to what's next. The extrovert side is let's just get to what's next. And I'm like, no. I want to arrive at what's next, prepared for what's next. That sounded right. That sounded like what was floating around inside. I'm going to check in with you. Am I making any type of sense?
Josh, I'm tracking. I am tracking this desire to acknowledge that voice and tuck it away, and your deep desire to build the engine from the inside and not just bolt on stuff on the car or on top of the software product because you know that that's a band-aid solution, it's going to get ripped off, and the introvert, thoughtful, deep side of you wants to, using words here, but be intentional about what you're building, and so it just needs the time and space to absorb versus just, yeah, is that a fair?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm feeling.
There's one thing that I'm unclear on right now.
Yeah.
When we started talking about the treadmill, we went down the path of more of the self-doubt and anxiety, like your, evil side being mean to you type of voices.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just articulated to me, and you said market shifts earlier, almost felt more like a voice of, hey, these are all the priorities, like what you have to do this, do that. And I don't know if that's one and the same in your mind or if it's different. But I'm curious if the analogy you're playing out here works for both.
I wonder if it's the shortcut tactic that the extrovert side uses to get my attention and wear down the defenses. Where it's like it's like the secret password to bypass what the introverts wants to do. Right. So when we talk about the code and everything, the code is to become, to be, integrity, all that stuff. And the introvert has learned, or the extrovert rather, has learned the trick of, well, if I just tell him he's full of crap, if I just make him doubt that, then I can get what I want. So maybe it's kind of the same thing. Or maybe it's a tactic. But I don't think they're not related. I would never say that those two things are not related or they're separate. I think there's something that ties them together.
Okay. Then, can I challenge one word that you used?
Sure.
Your first step, you said, I want to acknowledge the validity of the voice. And I'm going to challenge the word validity. And maybe you just said it, but like I
Uh,
think words really matter. And I think there's a difference between acknowledging the validity and acknowledging the intent
mm-hmm.
and acknowledging the misplaced intent. Like, hey, employee, I know you're in my office screaming at me that you are sick of this company and you're sick of me. And I know it's because you feel underappreciated or you feel like your project's falling behind, but like, this is not the way to say that. I acknowledge that you're upset about the project, but like, yo, and that's different than acknowledging the validity. And I'm gonna let that
Mm,
sit with you for a
mm,
sec because I don't want to force you down a path here, but I want to call you out. I've circled it on my page. That one word, validity, is what stood out to me that I'd want to challenge. Because to our point, I know we're saying there's an intent behind that extroverted voice, but we're not saying that it's valid to say that you're not that you're full of
mm,
crap.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. The it's not it's not so I guess when we were talking about validity, it was it was the message, not the tactic that we were talking about as being valid. Okay, what are you really like, right? What are you really trying to say? Um, as a parent, I am fully aware that when my teenager says something harsh, it's usually this is about that. She's trying to get my attention. She's trying to do whatever, and but it's what she really wants to say is valid, even though she doesn't know how to say it. She's got to get the attention. She's got to break down those walls. So when I speak of the validity, it's I want to know if what the extroverted side, what that intent is that valid? Is the heart of the issue of that what he wants to bring to the surface or what he wants to bring to attention? I want to acknowledge the validity of that, but I also want to be able to smack down the disrespectful tone that he's taking to get there. I think those two things are separate, right? Because I would say anyone who would approach their boss in a disrespectful tone has to have the courage to do it and b, a really good reason to. Those are admirable attributes for any employee in any type of organization: courage and conviction, right? So I have to say, okay, it's there, but if the boss doesn't have the ability to say, I'm going to acknowledge the courage and conviction, but you're not going to talk to me like that, then it becomes an abusive relationship from the employee to the boss. And that's not healthy. And that's what I feel that I have. I had like when like the introvert side doesn't know how to say, no, 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 boom, you can't lie and use that as tactics against me. But I also want to hear what you're saying. I also wanted to say, okay, well, you obviously have come here for a reason. What are you trying to say? There's something there that I need to know. I don't know what it is. And maybe I'm not going to be able to hear it because you're being an a-hole. I don't know.
I don't know if you noticed that you did this, but in that last 2 minutes, you put the boss on the introvert side by default. Just wanted you to recognize
Yeah,
that.
I'm definitely aware of that. Yeah, it's who I am. I know that that's 90% of who I am, and but I also know that I have a rebellious side, and that's where that
Mhm.
extrovert lives, and it comes out from time to time as well. So, but that's a good call out. That's good to be on record to say I am I am controlled. The corporation of Josh. Ugh, that sounds terrible. Let's not say that. I am controlled more by the my introverted tendencies. I always have been. So
Okay. Okay. So this question of like, what is it really trying to say? If we go back to the treadmill example, let's apply this kind of framework that you've developed here. What was that voice in your mind trying to say? And if you want to be specific, I'm totally open to it because I do want to test this.
That's the part where I don't have an answer because I don't know what it was. And I think that's where, and I think maybe that's where some of that intellectual fatigue or that intellectual stimulation I don't have, and the fatigue that I was dealing with, I didn't know what it was trying to say. Didn't have the language for that extroverted side to be able to say what it needed to say. And I didn't have the stinking energy to try to go through the conversation. So it just went and just went and it just went and it just went. So there was no resolution to anything from either side. Both sides left the treadmill, literally the treadmill, frustrated because nothing was understood and nothing was heard.
Mm-hmm. What eventually, unless you're feeling it now, ever since the treadmill too, but what eventually got things to settle?
I think I got distracted by the work that I was doing. It's been a busy week with editing and different stuff. So it's not like I had a choice. I didn't purposely choose to just ignore it. I just knew that I had other things that I had to do because that's what pays the bills. So yeah, it's been that. So I don't. That tab is still open. It's on mute and it's silent, and I'm sure that I'm going to pick up that conversation again sometime. But there's still no resolve to it outside of I've just been distracted from it.
It gives us an opportunity to kind of test this framework on that tab that's still kind of
Mm-hmm.
there.
For sure.
If there's a couple steps here of acknowledging the voice, finding a way to tuck it away, and then addressing it on your own terms. Should we start with step one of acknowledging what it's trying to say? Like if on the treadmill we're still not really feeling sure of what that voice was trying to say.
I
If I
think
could, yeah, go ahead.
I think it would be um I think I kind of like the idea of being able to practice some active listening on the introvert side to try to listen to what it says. Instead of the intensity, try to hear the message of what's going on. I think that's a really good practical step. Next step is to let's bring that tab to the forefront. Let's spend some time and try to really understand what it's saying. Because I honestly, I don't have a clue. I don't know what it was. I just knew that it was there, and that those tactics of trying to get my attention and break down the defenses were raging. But I don't know what the message was, and I've got to figure out what that is.
Okay. And if you had clarity on the message, you press a button and you have clarity on the message, and step one is done, what would you do then from step one onwards?
Well, having the information allows me to process the information and see it from all sides. Put the report on the introvert's desk and let the introvert read it, and let the introvert go through and see what's really there and what's valuable, what's not valuable. Um, and then have that meeting again, whenever there's been time to give it its due kicking around and its due process and research, like, you know, because I'm sure there's something good there. Uh, but I don't know what it is. And dismissing it is sometimes easier than having to deal with it because of the physical nature of it, or the physical aspect, the emotional energy expenditure. Um, you know, but just need some time with it, I guess.
Does step one feel like the bottleneck then?
Step one feels like the bottleneck. It does. Because yeah, it's like it's try is trying to get is trying to drink out of a fire hose, and you don't really understand. Like the fire hose becomes so intense that you don't even realize you're thirsty, like and it overwhelms the practical need for what's being said. It overwhelms the delivery method. It overwhelms like all of it. So yeah, I would say that would definitely be the bottleneck.
Okay. So if I bring us back to 10,000 feet for a sec,
Mm-hmm.
how are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. A
Okay.
lot of things are
Okay.
clicking.
Okay. When you came in with this question of, hey, if I'm on the treadmill and I run through the checklist and I get to the end of the checklist and those options are exhausted, like, what do we do? Right?
Mhm.
Have we isolated it to a point where in that moment, if we found a way to do step one, which is understand what that voice was saying, the rest could theoretically follow suit in place?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't be brash to be like, oh, it'd be this quick resolution of things, but it would certainly make the process move on along. Like I've got 40 years of being able to spend time with something and process it, so I know what that's like. I know what it feels like to process big emotions or process these things. The bottleneck is trying to understand what I need to process next,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then have we landed on this question of what could we potentially practically test to slow down the fire hose
Yeah.
to calm down the employee in the heat of the moment?
Yeah, that's absolutely the best practical step to take. Absolutely.
Shall we think through for the next I know we've gone over time here, but I just think that we've gone you good to just keep going for 10 minutes and like now
Sure.
we've taken this like big existential thing, now it's like how do we slow the fire hose down? And I imagine if we answer this and eventually land on something that works and is tested, this should work forever in any
Correct.
situation
Ab-
where your mind is going really fast.
yeah, and not only should it work internally, it also will work externally when I come across real extroverts in real life that act the same way. So yes, it's got a internal and external benefit for sure.
Okay. So I have a couple I have a couple thoughts, but I want to start with you. Like, should we get a list of potential strategies that you think are worth exploring, testing in these situations?
I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. I know the immediate need of that conversation is how do I slow down the delivery of information from the extrovert? Is it is it asking that side of question, right? Hey, can you explain that better? Is it forcing it to slow down and hone its delivery instead of just being a fire hose that sprays everywhere? Can we ask that voice questions in much the same way that we're doing here to slow down and define? If I can learn that trick, then that's the first step of not feeling overwhelmed by it all.
Play that out for me in the metaphor. It's the super hyper extroverted employee and the
Oh,
boss that needs a moment to slow it down, and the employee is like yelling in the office. Like, let's play it out there and then let's bring it back to your mind.
sure.
What would help in
Okay.
that situation?
So it's the boss is sitting in his desk and just listening to all of these things that the employee is saying. And once the employee has reached the point where he needs to breathe, the boss says, "Hey, wait a minute. Let's back up here. Can we talk about what this is really about? Like what is the one or two things you are trying to say to me. Can you define that? And let's talk about those things. And then if that is possible and that happens, then the boss can say, okay, this is what I'm hearing. Is that right? Much kind of like the coaching sessions that we're going through. I'm going to brain dump a whole bunch of stuff. You're going to track and analyze and say, do I hear you? Much the same as what we're going through. I'd like to be able to develop that with the extroverted side of my brain.
And that sounds like a very different framing than like the conflict, good, evil, boss versus employee. It feels more like, hey, like, let's discuss what this is about.
Yeah. I think moving when you said something along the lines of when we were talking about, we tied it back to the fear and needing the fear and the benefit of that fear. Instantly recognized we don't want to get rid of this employee. We don't want to get rid of this voice because there is some value there. He wouldn't be around if there wasn't value. So we've got to reframe good versus evil. We have to, because that just is going to always make it a conflict. They'll never be on the same side. They'll never be able to help each other out. So we've got to reframe that. So moving from that to the introvert, extrovert, boss employee relationship really helps it become compatible and unified instead of conflict. And when things move from conflict to the ability to contribute together, I think a path is easier the path is easier to move forward on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could, just you kind of using what you're saying, could step 1/2 be what's up? What's happening?
Oh my gosh, it's Nick. Worked with a guy named Nick. Nick was a crazy extrovert, get everything done. And we worked together, and I was the extreme introvert, and we butted heads all the time. We did not like each other. And we both had the same intent to make the company that we were working with the best that we could work with. And we just had to figure out how to come to an understanding. And the moment that we began to actively come to an understanding with each other is the moment we started working together so well. And he's one of the best people I've ever worked with after that fact. And it's the same exact thing that I am struggling with internally. It's legitimately, if I could name the extroverted side of me, it would be Nick. And he would look just like him and act just like him. And so I have real world proof that good can come of it because it's happened in the real world. I just need to be able to have that conversation with that extroverted side of the conversation. Normally it's the other way around, right? Normally we have internal struggles that we recognize outside. For whatever reason, I've never put together that I had this external relationship that perfectly defined what was going on the inside. So that helps with the blueprint. Sorry to hijack what you were saying, but light bulb.
I'm so glad it came from you. It's gonna stick better if it comes from you. I'm glad you jumped into that.
Yeah.
So then, what if step 1 in these treadmill moments, not when Tarik and you're talking in a coaching, in the heat of the treadmill moment, what if there was a way to anchor on, hey, an acknowledgement that like this is the introverted extroverted, like that's what's happening here, right? An acknowledgement that it's happening at a really fast pace, an acknowledgement that there is a shared intent, and an acknowledgement that like we need to find a way to kind of slow Nick down.
Yeah. You know what I'd like to have, we talked about the you're full of BS, all that stuff being a tactic and a shortcut to break down the defenses. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Practically speaking, I would love to have the same shortcut on the other side, a code word or a passphrase that instantly gets bypasses that. I don't know what that is. I don't know. It'll be a lot of trial and error to figure it out. But optimal situation, right? Optimal situation is you can come at me with this is BS, but I'm going to come at you with insert phrase here, and we're both going to just instantly be okay. Now we got to get to the truth. Make sense?
I'm
Like
tracking. So
that's what I want. I want optimally. It's passphrase for passphrase, and just be able to go through that process to drop all those pretenses.
okay. So I think in the next however many minutes, I think we're gonna land on a passphrase.
Okay. Okay.
I think we will.
I hope so. Like yeah.
What comes to mind?
Nothing.
got this.
That was I think that was the reason for my response there. Is like nothing's coming to mind. I don't know what it is. And that's why I says I wonder if it's like a trial and error thing where I just have to like say things until one of them work. Because of the BS thing and all that stuff. That was years and years and years and years of tactics for that to become shorthand, right?
Yeah.
From that extrovert side. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a development of a shorthand way, real quick. But I know that the question has to start with, what are you really trying to say? I think that's the first question that has to be asked. What are you getting at? What are you really trying to say? If it starts there, then I know there's other elements that need to be addressed in a shorthand way. But the first thing has to be, what's the message? What's the message?
Mm-hmm. Can I offer one suggested passphrase?
Sure, please.
Just reading how you were reacting as it came to you. Like you literally went like this when you realized this. What happens if you said Nick? What happens if there was a reminder that remember Nick?
Yeah, maybe I could. Maybe that'll work. I would feel. Initially, I would feel like I'm disrespecting a good friend, and then secondarily, I feel like I'm purposely getting like a multiple personality thing going on. Hilarious in jest. I don't mean to.
Yeah.
I don't mean to. I know that's a very real thing. But I don't mean to be dismissive of that. But it feels like we're naming other things now and stuff, and I don't know. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, and maybe there is something to that, and maybe over the next week we will try that to see how that works.
Okay, sounds good. And then just on the piece here of you actually having that discussion with the extroverted side, is there something that you think you could do that would help actually facilitate that discussion so that it's at the pace that you want it to be at?
It'll probably happen probably at the gym on the treadmill. It's probably where it'll happen. So sometime one of the days this week I'll probably be on there, and that's when we'll have that discussion. There's something about the activity, the physical activity of stuff that allows my brain to wander a little bit. So it'll probably happen sometime during then.
Okay. Can I offer one suggestion?
Sure,
One
please.
thought, not a suggestion. Activity is great. Writing is very powerful. The reason is when we are keeping things in our brain, it is impossible to objectively contemplate your thoughts while they are in your own mind. Like the parts of the brain that you need are all firing at the same time. And that's why it gets clouded with judgment and emotion. So if we keep it in our heads, that is tricky. The way to get it out of your head You can either verbalize it or you can write it down. And so verbalizing a voice note and listening to the voice note, when you are then
Mm,
listening to it, your
okay.
critical thinking and objective brain can kick in. When you are writing something down and looking at written words, your objective critical thinking brain can actually analyze it. And when you're writing or when you're speaking, you're controlling the pace of your voice. There's a lot of times I go for walks outside. If I'm having a treadmill moment where I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling low, I don't know what it is, and I will talk out loud to myself on purpose with AirPods so I don't look like I'm just, at a slow pace because that
Okay.
helps me slow it down, or I'll write at a slow pace. And so, whatever works for you, right? If it's on the treadmill, that's whatever works for you. But there's a couple scientific things there that theoretically should help slow the conversation between boss and employee down. So, food for thought on that one.
Okay. I've got a good idea. I've got an idea. Yeah.
Okay. Action wise, then, have we landed? And you tell me if you disagree or if there's something else, okay? Is this about then figuring out that passphrase that reminds you of everything that we've come up with and finding a way to slow down that discussion once it gets time to get the download of information from the extrovert?
Hmm. Yeah. That's two big things. Yeah, for sure.
Anything else come to mind?
Um, Probably a scheduled follow up. Like I know that once I get that information, I'm going to I'm going to have to process. I'm going to have to deal with it. I'm going to have to go through it. I want to make sure that I don't let it sit on the table, um, and not be addressed. Um, so I think the third step of that is setting setting a time to absolutely hold the next meeting. Uh, yeah, I think
With the extrovert,
with yes,
right?
with the
Yeah.
extrovert,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Deadlines I think would be important because I can definitely see the temptation to pull through the paper, read the report a little bit, sit it down, and then yeah, I can see where that would happen. So it would have to be intentional on that to make sure we get back to it. And I think that
Okay.
would honor the extrovert because I think maybe one of the things that the extrovert could potentially get angry at is that he's brought everything to it and he's been heard or whatever, and nothing's ever been done, nothing's ever happened because it's never been brought back. I can absolutely see that. I can see that side of where that would cause those coals to burn hotter too. So
Okay. We're at 90 minutes
yeah, we
almost.
should we
And
for the
no, no,
sake of
no.
everything.
I just want to acknowledge Josh. Like you, we went
Oh yeah,
deep today, and you did an amazing job. Um, you did an amazing job. This is not easy, and I just want to acknowledge that.
I appreciate that. It you make it the space effortless to be able to do that. I don't feel like I have to stress to I don't have to like stress to fill content or put whatever. I don't I like you make it really effortless and you make the space easy to be able to say those things and go deep. And provide validation and guardrails, which is super important, so we don't just fly everywhere. Um, so yeah, you definitely make it a lot easier.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Do you have 3 more minutes in you?
I got 3 more minutes. Yeah, I can do 3 more minutes.
Okay. There's two things I want to do.
Sure.
Um, we went through a lot there, and I want to get your kind of summary of the key insights that came out, and there might be quite a few things, Josh. There might only be a couple things that stand out right now, but I would love to get in your words the summary for yourself, not for me, of what came out today, the key insights that you want to leave with, and then I just want to see how you're doing at the end. But I'd like to properly give you some space to articulate that for yourself, not for me or anybody else.
Sure. Uh, it's really good to acknowledge there's another employee in the building that cares about the organization just as much as I do, even though it's a drain on resources and it can be a little rambunctious at times. Um, that's that idea of being able to name and categorize the feelings that are going on is once again one of the most important things for me. Uh, because now that I have a category for it, I can recognize it, I can name it, I can hold that conversation. Along those lines is the validity of the intent to do what is best. It's not a competition between the two. We have the same goal. It's just two different ways of trying to go about obtaining it. And knowing that I'm going to have the best return when the introvert side of me is the one that maintains the most control, but also knowing that that introverted side needs a kick in the pants from time to time from the extroverted side, and knowing that it's not a destructive thing, it's a constructive thing. Just one has a little bit more manners than the other, and we need to work on that. So that those are the two huge things. Conceptually, practically, the biggest thing would be how to have the conversation when those things come up, and the desire to come up with a shorthand to say, "Hey, slow down. What are you really getting at?" So conceptually, which is where I thrive, and that helps a whole lot. Practically, which is what I need, the nuts and bolts, because I'm not real good at doing that on my own. Those are the big takeaways today.
And on the practical side, what do you want to do going forward to try to tackle that?
Um, Three things. Come up with a way to document the conversation um, outside of my brain, so we can activate the objective side of things. And then purposely scheduling the follow up meeting. So the extrovert side feels heard and feels like they're actually a part of part of the process and not ignored. Um, those two things are real practical steps that I believe is going to help. I'm going to be really bad at it at first, but I'm going to continue to try to practice it over time and get good at it. I don't expect it to be great right away, but I do expect it to be a clunky process that grows into something good.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I feel. How do I feel? Um, I feel like both of those introverts and extrovert side are leaving today feeling validated and heard and in the correct orientation and position. Neither one of them are feeling slighted or taken advantage of. They both feel like they've got their their due time in court, and that they need to learn that they're not competing, and they understand now they don't need to compete with each other. They are on the same side with the same goals. We just argue over the ways to do it. That's important. To make it from a conflict into a collaboration is a good thing.
I can see some tension decreased compared to an hour ago. You did really well, Josh. You did really well. Any loose ends?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I think we pulled on a lot of threads today,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
as we tend to do. We might have to learn how to break these up into two parters. But um, I can't tell you how valuable this is. Not for for selfish reasons, right? Not for yes, we want to. We both have stated we really want to help other people out. We really want to show this process to other people to give them the courage to go through this. But selfishly, it helps so much just to have a space to have a space that that if you were to fake it, none of this would work. None of this project would work. Like we both know that we both have to be authentic with this in order for it to work, and that provides a layer of accountability to not BS and to not show up and to not give it all. So selfishly, even that has been pretty incredible for me. Um, so I guess that's I feel peaceful knowing and saying those things.
I appreciate you. I
I believe
appreciate
in
you,
you,
man.
man. I
I
don't
believe in you too.
I don't invest in people and in things and do stuff like this for people I don't believe in. So I believe in you, and I think I'm not going to try. I'm going to do my best not to get salesy, but I believe in you, and I believe you help a lot of people. That's how I feel about it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Great job today. And I believe in you too. And I love where we're going with this. Talk to you soon.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, man.
See
Cheers.
ya.